Turning financial chaos into personal freedom. Welcome to Wealth Alchemy, the channel that turns every knowledge into golden opportunity. Every single day, millions of hardworking professionals, entrepreneurs, and executives wake up to an invisible storm. On the outside, everything looks perfectly ordered. You have the title. You have the assets. You have the business or the high-ranking career. You've checked the boxes that society told you would unlock success. But on the inside, if you are completely honest with yourself, it feels like navigating a maze where the walls are constantly moving. We live in a world defined by financial noise. You open your phone, and you are hit with a barrage of conflicting data. Interest rate hikes, sudden market corrections, the rise and fall of new asset classes, inflation eating away at purchasing power, and shifting global economic cycles. One expert tells you to play it safe and hoard cash. Another tells you cash is trash and you need to aggressively chase growth. This constant influx of data doesn't create clarity. It creates a specific type of paralysis, a quiet, background anxiety that I call financial chaos. Chaos doesn't mean you are broke. In fact, some of the highest-earning individuals in the world live in absolute financial chaos. They have capital tied up in multiple places: real estate, traditional markets, private ventures, or digital assets, but they lack a cohesive framework that ties it all together. They are managing complexity, not building freedom. They are reacting to the noise of the day rather than orchestrating a multi-year master plan. The result? You become a hostage to your own success. You trade your time, your mental bandwidth, and your presence with your family just to keep the machinery running. But what if the chaos isn't something you have to survive? What if the chaos is actually the raw material? In ancient times, alchemists didn't try to destroy the base metals they were given. They sought to understand their properties so they could transmute them into gold. Today, we are going to do exactly that. We are going to look directly at the economic chaos around us, strip away the noise, and look at the core elements required to turn volatility into predictable, unbreakable personal freedom. If you want to master these frameworks and build true clarity in an unpredictable economy, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an update as we break down the modern rules of wealth. Because out here, we don't manage the market. We transmute the chaos. The architecture of true freedom. Before we can solve a problem, we have to define what victory looks like. What is personal freedom? Too often, people mistake a specific net worth number for freedom. They think, if I just hit 5 million or 10 million or 50 million, then I will be free. But numbers without architecture are fragile. If you don't build the right structure, a higher net worth simply scales your complexity and amplifies your stress. True personal freedom isn't a number on a balance sheet. True freedom is time sovereignty. It is the absolute right to decide what you do, when you do it, where you live, and who you do it with. It's the ability to step away from the operational grind of a business or a career without the entire structure collapsing. It's knowing that your family's standard of living is completely decoupled from your daily physical labor. To build this, we have to move past traditional, outdated financial advice. The old playbook, the one that tells you to work for 40 years, invest conservatively in mutual funds, and retire at 65, is fundamentally broken. It was designed for a static, predictable economy that no longer exists. In the modern economic landscape, freedom requires an architectural approach based on 3 distinct pillars. The base, absolute protection. This is your defensive line. It's the liquidity, the structural optimization, and the hard assets that ensure no matter what happens to the global economy, whether a market crashes or an industry shifts, your lifestyle and your family are entirely insulated. The engine, asset velocity. This is where your capital works for you, not the other way around. It's the intentional deployment of capital into high-conviction vectors that compound efficiently over time without demanding your daily operational attention. The apex, macro alignment. This is the secret weapon of the world's most successful wealth builders. It's the ability to align your portfolio with macroeconomic cycles rather than fighting against them. When these three pillars are aligned, chaos vanishes. Volatility stops being a threat and becomes a tailwind. Let's look at how we systematically build this architecture, starting with the way we view the global economic clock. Decoding the macro clock. The first step in transmuting chaos into freedom is understanding that the global economy is not random. It feels chaotic because most people view it through a micro lens. They look at daily headlines, weekly stock movements, or monthly inflation reports. But if you zoom out, you realize the economy moves in predictable, repeating seasons. Just like winter always follows autumn, and spring always follows winter, economic history operates on massive, cyclical waves. Throughout history, researchers and economists, most notably Nikolai Kondratiev with his study of long-term economic cycles, or K-waves, have documented that human productivity, debt, and capital markets expand and contract in distinct phases that span decades. When you don't understand these cycles, you behave erratically. You buy at the top of a cycle because of FOMO, fear of missing out, and you sell at the bottom because of panic. That is the definition of financial chaos. But when you decode the macro clock, your entire emotional relationship with money changes. When the mainstream media is screaming about a crisis, an educated wealth builder recognizes that they are simply witnessing an economic autumn or winter, a natural clearing out of excess debt and overvalued assets. This contraction phase isn't a disaster, it is a massive wealth transfer mechanism. It is the exact moment when high-quality assets become mispriced. To achieve personal freedom, you must train your mind to look at a 2 to 3 year horizon, not a 2 to 3 week horizon. You stop trying to day trade the noise. Instead, you position yourself strategically before the wave turns. You identify the structural shifts. For example, understanding the transition from a legacy financial system driven by infinite money printing to a highly digitalized, decentralized economy. When you can spot these generational macro trends early, you don't need to get lucky 1,000 times. You only need to be right on a few major high-conviction plays and have the patience to let the macro clock do the heavy lifting for you. The art of strategic transmutation. Now let's get highly practical. How do we take a chaotic, fragmented portfolio and convert it into a streamlined machine that produces personal freedom? We use a process called strategic transmutation. Most people build their asset portfolios piece by piece, completely isolated from one another. They buy a property because a friend recommended it. They buy a stock because it's trending. They hold cash because they are nervous. This creates a scattered asset footprint that requires massive cognitive energy to manage. Strategic transmutation means organizing your entire financial life into 3 clear, intentional buckets: the shield, the engine, and the vault. 1. The shield. Liquidity and amp, hard protection. Your shield is what allows you to sleep peacefully at night, completely immune to market panic. It consists of high liquidity reserves and rock-solid, tangible assets. The purpose of the shield is not to make you rich. It is to ensure you stay rich. It covers your operational liabilities, provides an emergency runway for your family, and ensures that you never find yourself in a position where you are forced to sell your growth assets at a loss during a market downturn. 2. The engine. Asymmetric growth vectors. This is where we actively compound wealth by taking calculated, asymmetric risks. An asymmetric risk is one where the downside is strictly limited, but the upside is potentially exponential. This is where strategic exposure to high-conviction digital assets, innovative tech sectors, or emerging market disruptions comes into play. You don't put your life savings here. You put calculated strategic capital here. You look for assets that are backed by strong fundamental utility, growing network effects, and clear adoption metrics, and you hold them through the volatility with a strict, multi-year horizon. 3. The vault. Legacy and amp, hard yield. The vault is where you lock in your wins from the engine. When an asymmetric growth asset experiences an explosive run, you don't leave all your chips on the table. You systematically shave off profits and transmute them into the vault. The vault consists of cash-flowing real estate, premium commercial properties, or debt-free, yield-generating infrastructure. When you organize your financial life this way, the chaos stops. You stop asking, "What should I do with my money today?" Instead, you look at your matrix. If your shield is low, you reinforce it. If your engine hits a massive growth cycle, you take profits and secure them in your vault. Every asset has a clear job description. Your wealth becomes a circular, self-sustaining ecosystem. Overcoming the psychological friction. We can talk about macro clocks, asset allocation, and strategic buckets all day. But none of it matters if you do not master the psychology of wealth execution. The greatest threat to your financial freedom isn't inflation, it isn't a bad market, and it isn't government policy. The greatest threat to your financial freedom is the reflection in the mirror. Human beings are wired for survival, not for wealth accumulation. Our ancient brains are programmed to seek safety in crowds. When the crowd is cheering and buying, we feel an overwhelming biological urge to join them. When the crowd is panicking and fleeing, our survival instinct tells us to run. But in the arena of wealth alchemy, if you do what the crowd does, you will get what the crowd gets: mediocrity, anxiety, and lifelong financial dependence. To turn chaos into freedom, you have to develop what I call operational detachment. When a market moves violently, a chaotic investor reacts emotionally. Their heart rate goes up, they check their portfolio 20 times a day, and they make impulsive decisions that disrupt their long-term compounding. An aligned wealth builder looks at the exact same market movement and treats it as a data point. They ask, does this movement break my long-term thesis? Is this asset fundamentally damaged, or is this just temporary market noise? If the thesis hasn't changed, the plan hasn't changed. You must stop measuring your financial health by your daily fluctuating net worth. Net worth is an accounting vanity metric that changes with the whims of the market. Instead, start measuring your financial health by your freedom runway. How many months or years you can live completely on your own terms without earning another dollar of active income. When your focus shifts from chasing fluctuating numbers to extending your freedom runway, your psychological friction disappears. You stop being reactive, and you become deeply, unshakably proactive. Your sovereign blueprint. As we bring this framework together, I want you to realize that you are sitting at a very unique crossroads. The global economy is undergoing a massive, historic transition. The old systems of wealth management are consolidating, technology is rewriting the rules of commerce, and new asset classes are defining the future of global capital. This environment is inherently volatile, and it will continue to be chaotic for those who lack a map. But for you, this chaos is an unprecedented opportunity. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You simply need to execute a proven, disciplined blueprint. Starting today, I challenge you to audit your current financial life. Step away from the daily noise and ask yourself 3 foundational questions. Is my wealth structured for my freedom, or is it just creating more complexity? Am I playing defense with a solid shield, or am I exposed to sudden economic shifts? Am I allocating capital based on emotional headlines, or am I aligning my assets with the long-term macro clock? Remember, wealth is not about buying more things. It is not about keeping score against your peers. Wealth is about sovereignty. It is about building a fortress around your family so that you can live life on your own terms, protect your peace of mind, and create a lasting legacy that endures for generations. Stop managing the chaos. Start transmuting it. Take control of your time, build your blueprint, and step into the absolute personal freedom you have earned. Thank you for your time. If this perspective resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who is ready to turn their financial complexity into unbreakable freedom. Always remember the ultimate law of the market. Turn chaos into capital and time into freedom. See you in the next deep dive.